Hi, I'm Rich Baker from Rollin' and Riches, and this is Improv Breakdown. Wow.
Yay!
Like suggest I was that.
Any different things?
My hands. It's like,
Yeah.
That
Welcome to the Improv Breakdown. My name is Rich Baker. Thank you so much for tuning in. Unlike most of my episodes where I interview someone else, I'm just here to answer questions today. It's a solo episode. So I got a few questions from different students, and then I've got some things that I just want to pontificate on that I think would be really helpful for a lot of people, a lot of improvisers out there, people in the same situation. If you have any questions for me, please put them in the comments on YouTube, and I love answering questions. After 21 and a half years of doing this, I'm like, I got so much that I wanted, that I like, oh, I wish I'd known that, or, different things. So please feel free to reach out. I would love to answer them. First question we have, my student Matt wants to know, do you have a ritual / mantra / something that you tell yourself before performing improv? 100% I do. And it's not always the same thing. So for me, improv, like any other skill, is, it's about what happens in the moment, right? You could be the fastest runner ever, but if you can't run that fast when it's race day, then it doesn't matter, right? At least it's not going to be measured as well. And improv, I love practicing. I love class, all that kind of things. But, what I care about the most is, can I bring it for the show? So for any given show, I'll tell myself a variety of things, something that maybe I recently kind of either remembered or discovered or thought about. I was like, oh, I should work on that. Or if I've noticed any pitfalls in my performance, which, by the way, sidebar, the only way that I notice pitfalls in my performance is by watching the video of it afterwards. I am not assessing my performance while I'm doing it. I tried that years and years and years ago, and it is terrible because it took me out of the present moment. I wasn't focusing just on my scene partner. I was focusing partly on grading myself. Terrible way to do it. That's one reason why we say don't practice with your team without a coach there. And it's not because your coach is so much more knowledgeable than the people in the team. That might be, but that's kind of regardless of the fact. What the coach can do that the team can't is literally give you the outside perspective of seeing what it looks like from the audience, seeing what it looks like not from the stage. So I don't assess myself until I watch the tape. When I'm not doing anything other than watching, I'm just like, okay, I noticed this seems to be a pattern, this isn't working for me as much, stuff like that, right? So there are several examples of things that I say to myself, and not just to myself, I say them also to my teammates, right? My partner, Roland, who we've been doing a duo improv for almost 7 years now, we often say things like, everything you say, I'm going to make important. I'm not worried about the laughs. I'm worried about making you look good. We're friendly characters who know and like each other. That's a big one that I've done for years, just because it's so easy to argue. Even for someone who's taught friendly characters that know and like each other over and over and over and over and over, it's still a temptation. I want to argue and be strangers, and it's like, why? We'll say, like, I'm here to make you look good. All I'm interested in is making a good show with you. I'm here to play, things like that. And we'll say that back and forth to each other. When we were in person doing shows, we would literally take 10 minutes of just solid, just saying things back and forth to each other. Now that it's online, we've gotten a little bit lazier, and, we'll talk on the phone a little bit before the show if we can, but it's not near as intense. But as far as what I tell myself, sometimes I'll be like, you know what? I haven't done an Irish accent in forever. Maybe I should pull that out, right? Not planning ahead in the show, but just putting it in my head of like, oh yeah, because it's so easy for me not to do big characters when I'm improvising, just because I've done so many in short form that when I'm doing long form, I tend to zone in. So I'll give myself those little, I don't know, the same thing you'd like inspiration. Like in short form, if someone's like, tweet, freeze, now you're in a Shakespeare scene, like you have to do it, right? It's put upon you. But in long form, we can do all those things, but it's not put on us, so it's easier for just to let that go. And I love playing big characters, I love playing accents, I love all, the cartoonish, big, all that kind of stuff. And but it's easy to forget. And so I'll tell myself, that's another example. There's plenty of things I'll tell myself, but really, if you're asking, like, what should I tell myself, Matt, or anyone who's listening to this, like, what you should tell yourself is anything that will help you based on your patterns. It's really that simple. And if you can't identify them, get an outside point of view. You don't necessarily have to have a coach, but like show, a video of your performance to someone, who's got any improv experience whatsoever, and just say, what patterns did you notice for me that don't seem to be working, right? And of course, you want to vet who you're getting this from, but I hope that's obvious. Don't just give it to your friend who took one improv class. Give it to someone who's been doing improv for a while and just say, hey, would you mind watching this and giving me any notes? And if you can't find that, like you can go back and watch yourself and go, okay, what am I noticing? Okay, it seems to me that I ask a lot of questions, so I'll tell myself right before a show, don't ask so many questions, things like that. Okay, so Matt, thank you for that question. Next one, is improv a performance art form or a way of living life? It's both. Film acting, which I've done, is a great art form, but I don't really take anything from film acting and put it into my real life, at least not anything I think of offhand. In film acting, it's about camera angles, it's about doing it over and over the same way, it's about taking chances when the director says, all right, let's try something different, stuff like that. But in improv, a lot of things, the reason why improvisers get taken to companies and organizations, different things like that, is because the same skills, many, not all, but many of the same skills that help us be great improvisers really help us in regular life. They help us when we're working with teams. They help us when we're talking to people who we're like, our employees who are under us, our bosses who are over us, to clients, to customers, to our, and not just in a professional setting. Like, I have a student, he'd never taken improv before this year. His first time taking improv was with me online, and this guy's, is an older gentleman. He's over 50, and he was kind of reluctant. He said, maybe, but he tried it. And I had no idea of any of this. He was just some new person in my class. I knew he'd never done improv before, but I didn't know he was reluctant to it. And he literally wrote me an email, and he said, I had a conversation with my wife. This is probably 4 weeks after we started working together. So I had a conversation with my wife, and what would have been an argument that, the patterns for, this is going to be an argument, nothing's going to get done, that didn't happen. I listened, I paused, I thought, I was more about what she was saying than just thinking about what I was going to say next. Like, he just went on this long, it was the most touching emails I've ever gotten as a teacher. And, the improv, he has no interest in being an improv performer and getting on stage or, trying to audition for SNL one day or anything like that. He's just a guy who had a better conversation with his wife because of the skills he picked up in my class. And my class was improv for performance, right? It wasn't specifically like, let's take improv and use it in our regular lives and be better communicators. It's just, it's almost impossible to not be. Like, once your eyes are kind of open and you start practicing and using those muscles and those neural pathways that you need in order to improvise, all of a sudden it is so much easier to fall into those patterns a little bit more when you're not improvising. And improvisers, and I don't want to get on a high horse here, but I mean, it's true, we're better listeners almost across the board. If I'm talking to someone and I don't know them at all, I can tell how good of a listener they are because I've just done it, done this for so long. And if they're a really good listener, odds are they've taken an improv class. Not exclusively. There are definitely some people out there who actually are good listeners, but there's way more people out there who think they're good listeners, and they are not. And I think it's because most people don't think of listening as a skill or how to build it, whereas in improv, it is the most fundamental building block skill you have. You can't do good improv without being a good listener, so you necessarily grow that in improv, where there's a lot of ways to live life without doing improv where you can kind of get away with it. I think you're a better communicator if you're a better listener, but there's certainly people who are terrible listeners who seem to be functioning in life and doing their thing. So, it is both, you can study it specifically to be a performance art form, but you're probably it's going to affect your human life, right? And if you never want to be a performer, that's fine. It'll affect you anyway, whether your intent is to do improv for that or not. So the answer to, is it an art form or way of living. It's both. It really is both. It's pretty unique and cool that way. And then the last thing I want to talk about is just this idea of leadership, taking onus upon yourself. So I've been an improv instructor since 2006. I've worked for Comedy Sport Chicago, the Comedy Shrine, the Laugh Out Loud Theater, Mission Improbable, Second City, Hollywood, and the West Side Comedy Theater in Santa Monica. I may be missing one or two. I've worked for a lot of different entities where I was a hired gun, and I very much liked that. And I now know why, but I didn't really get it at the time. I like being a hired gun because when you're a hired gun, you have responsibilities, but you don't have all the responsibilities. You don't, like, I never booked the gig. I never talked to the clients before the gig, right? I never curated the students in my classes, different things like that. Second City would put together a class, and they would assign it, and they would assign me to it, and that's my class. And it was cool. I loved it. Comedy Sports would book a corporate training gig. They would hire me to be the corporate trainer. Boom, I'm there. But as far as all the other stuff, I was off the hook. I didn't have to do all that, so I was just like, yeah. And if you're a hired gun, there's nothing wrong with that as long as you're getting work. But what I noticed was that when I moved out here to LA, I couldn't find work as a hired gun. You know, the people who were hiring for the corporate training gigs, for example, they had plenty, and they didn't. If they didn't know me personally, why would they hire me? You know, I'm just some random white dude. I might be good, but like, they don't need me, right? And so I just didn't do as much corporate work over the last 6 years that I used to do in Chicago, and then COVID hit. And I went from having in-person gigs teaching improv at different theaters around the country to all of a sudden not. Now, before COVID hit, I wasn't doing great financially, just as a bit of a reveal personal thing. Because teaching improv, historically it doesn't pay all that much. And there weren't that many gigs. Like, on average, I would usually only get one, maybe sometimes two classes at Second City. And then I'd have little independent gigs that would kind of land in my lap and different things like that. But I wasn't making a lot, and I was in a lot of debt. I didn't have much income coming in. And I had these 3 gigs. I had one in Vegas, I had one in Arizona, and I had one in California all gigs I had to drive to that were going to pay decent. To drive somewhere, teach a bunch of workshops, do some shows, come back. And I was super excited. Then COVID hit. And those were gone immediately. And I didn't have anything on the horizon. And I'm like, crap, I don't know what to do. And I'm extremely thankful for many, many different factors coming into play at once. One was learning about Seth Godin, who, if you've heard me talk, you've probably heard me mention him. He's my favorite author and speaker. And he just really opened my eyes up to what marketing is, what being a leader is, what being in charge is, all these different things that allowed me to kind of step up and go, okay, I can do this. And, even COVID took away my gigs, but what COVID provided, which we all have access to, is, Zoom or whatever your software is that you're using to talk to other people from your computer to theirs on video. That's a classroom. That's a corporate conference room. That's a performance. It's a stage. It's anything any place where we like meet with other people. Zoom is now that, or whatever you're using. But what I realized was I have access to the same classroom space as every single improv theater in the world right now. And, having never really done it on my own as much, I was very scared. When I started, I offered classes for $4 per person for 2 hours because I didn't know what to charge. I was like, no one told me what to charge. There was no map. There was no leadership for all that stuff. And so I just experimented and I tried stuff and I undercharged. I had a student, I'm not going to say who it is, but I'm extremely grateful for her. After taking one of my $4 workshops in the very beginning, she sent me an email back and she's like, by the way, I would pay more than $4 for your workshop. And I was like, oh. And it felt so scary to charge like what I would consider a lot of money, for people to take my classes. Well, cut to now, it's the end of 2020. I have 7 regular classes. I call them practice groups. and I make my living off of them. And my work is just joy. It's just I curate my own students, so I don't let anyone in who's not awesome. Everyone who's wanted to come in is awesome so far, but I am super confident in that if someone took one of my classes and turned out to be a real shithead, I'd be like, nah, we're good. No shithead. I call it the no shithead rule. I haven't had to enforce it because I said they all rock. And so I spend 2 hours a week, 7 times a week with different groups of fantastic improvisers and just good human beings. And they love it. Most of my students just re-up every time. They go in 4-week cycles. So I just wanted to break that down for you real quick. No pun intended. The normal model, or I'd say that I was used to in improv, was either workshop or a class, right? You take a class for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever, and then that's part of a level, and then you've got another level after that, and eventually you graduate, right? And then workshops were just like these one-offs, like, okay, 3 hours here, and then we're done. And I wasn't really interested in offering either one of those online because the one-offs are a lot of work to get people to know about them. And the levels, I didn't really have, it didn't really interest me to, have a curriculum and build people up. I'd rather just help people wherever they're at. So I came up with something brand new. I never heard of it before. Apologies if other people came up with it before and I'm not giving them credit. I don't remember it if I heard it before, but I call them practice groups. They meet for 4 weeks in a row. There's no set curriculum. They're based on scene work. I have one of them that's based on short form games, but all the rest are based on scene work. And I do a lot of different things with them. What I do on any given day is largely dependent on who's in the class, what I feel they need, what they can work on, what they're succeeding at. So every week, I'm kind of assessing, okay, I like this, let me give them some variety. Next week, let me work on this skill a little bit more. This one I think they got, we can put that on the back burner for a minute, etc. And so it's more almost like a dojo style of they know they're going to show up for 4 weeks. They may or may not continue after that, but for those 4 weeks, I'm going to give them a curriculum and exercises that are specific towards this group of people. And what I've discovered in addition to that is I've had not just the guy that I mentioned earlier who had a better conversation with his wife, but I've had 4 people take their very first improv class by jumping in one of my practice groups. Now, historically, again, what I was used to was if you're brand new at improv, you took a level 1 class with other people who were brand new at improv. And I love teaching those. I taught many of them over the years, but I've seen a lot faster growth from people who had never taken improv before. Now, all of a sudden, they're in a class with people who have some experience, who know each other a little bit better. And so, what improv does, if I play basketball one-on-one LeBron James, I'm not going to get any better at basketball. I'm just going to get smoked 10-0 and feel bad about myself. He's not going to get any better because it didn't take him any effort to beat me. But when you're improvising with someone who's got experience, right? When you find the LeBron James of improv, that's actually your scene work's going to be better because they make you look good. That's the whole point of improv, is we're here to make each other look good. So if you have if you are just starting out or if you don't have that much experience in improv, if you get the opportunity to improvise with people who have more experience, take it. Take it. Don't be intimidated because there's so much more experience and they're going to make you look bad because their whole job, assuming that they, ascribe to the style of improv that I do, which is most people that I know, their job, their number one point of concern, make you look good. So one of my favorite scenes I ever did was with an improviser named Joey Bland. I'd been improvising 6 years at this point. He'd been improvising for 10 or 15, I don't know. He'd been at it for a while. And he was Second City Main Stage. He was comedy. He'd been in the comedy sports ensemble for years, and we did a scene together. I felt like I was walking on a cloud. I was like, improvising with this guy is so effortless, so easy, and we killed it. And I give way more credit to him for the scene than me, but my point is that I was improvising with someone who was leagues better than me at the time, and it was a good thing. So please take advantage of that. And so anyway, what I've discovered is with these practice groups, I welcome people who don't have any improv experience because I'm like, look, you're going to jump in and everyone's going to be taking care of you. They're going to up their game by trying to make you look better, and your game is going to get upped faster because you're seeing their techniques, you're playing off them, etc. So if you're an improv instructor and you're not teaching your own stuff online right now, unless you just have an aversion to online improv, which I totally understand. I've got some friends who they won't touch improv online with a 10-foot pole in them. That's fine. But if the only reason that you're not teaching your own classes is because you're waiting for a Second City or a UCB or a Comedy Sports to give you approval and hire you, I highly recommend you just do it on your own. Just do it, because, and if you don't have any confidence in your ability to do it well, then do it for free. Say I'm offering a free class. I still offer free classes sometimes, and I've offered plenty. There's nothing wrong with offering free classes. It's a gift to other people. They get to take a class, and then you can even tell them up front, look, I'm a brand new teacher. I'd love to help you out as best I can. I know that I have something to offer, but I don't want to charge for it just yet. Would you mind helping me out? And a lot of people are looking for that. A free improv class? That's great. If you're gonna do this, the number one thing I would say is be willing to make mistakes all the time, and just give yourself a break. Like, oh, that didn't go well. Fine. If you need to apologize because it offended someone or hurt someone, apologize. But don't beat yourself up over it. Just learn from it and go, oh, you know what? That exercise I thought was going to kill, it actually was real awkward for everyone for 5 minutes. Sorry about that. Or, oh, this thing took way too long. I should have shortened it. I didn't explain that right, so people got off the wrong foot. Whatever. Just understand that you're not perfect, and no one who's teaching a class needs to be perfect. As long as your intention is, I'm trying to make this a good environment for everyone, and I'm trying to do my best, almost anyone will forgive you. And 2, it's way more about the students in your class than you. I would like to believe, and this does exist to some extent, there's these rock star teachers in improv where, oh my God, Craig Kakowski's teaching, oh, we gotta go, or Jill Bernard's here, oh, we gotta go. And yes, they deserve that applause because they're fantastic. But as far as like regular classes, it's about the unit of people meeting together, not just you in charge of it, right? So if you can, try and make sure that you've got good students. I would say the curation of your students when you're running your own shop is as important or more so than anything else that you're doing, right? Then there's some obvious stuff, or at least I think it's obvious, but just to point it out, professionalism, be on time, show up when you say you're going to show up, make sure everyone has the Zoom links, make sure everyone's been communicated with, make sure that, if they are paying you money, that you've acknowledged that, okay, you're good and that you keep good records, and that takes a lot of work. I spend almost as much time when I'm not in class working as I do when I'm in class. Obviously, I'm working 14 hours a week teaching, but as marketing, I send emails after every week. I get a lot of communications from people who are interested in class who may or may not ever take it. I give them just as much attention as people who are taking my class. There's a lot to it. So I'm not saying that it's for everybody, but just if you're an improv teacher and you're thinking I should run my own shop, try it. Just take on one class. Just start with one. A good friend of mine started his own writers group. He's a writing teacher, and he asked me how I did mine, and I was like, I don't think these are big secrets here, but I happen to tell you what I know. He now has 2 writers groups that meet every week. He's in charge, and he makes money, and the people who take his class, they love it because they're getting their writing done, they're getting direction, right? And so this isn't just for improvisers. You can extrapolate this to anything. I know people who are teaching yoga online, who are teaching I know guys teaching juggling online. I know clown classes, on camera classes, and then stuff outside of the arts, like whatever it is. But running your own shop now, like if Zoom is your platform and you're paying $12 a month, whatever it is, it's not that much. One, it's tax write-off too, and also it's not that expensive, but it's the same stuff that everyone else gets. So like, why not host your own thing? If you're stuck with me for this far, first of all, thank you. When I initially did the interviews for Improv Breakdown, I started in June of 2020, I really wanted to do the show, but I did not have the courage to do it, and I didn't believe I had the work ethic. And so I just made myself conduct the interviews and record them. I'm like, okay, I can call up not 10 friends who are, in badasses who want to talk about this stuff. And they'll ride with me no matter what happens. And, there's plenty of examples of people who've started podcasts or YouTube shows where they get their first 5 episodes out and then they just stop. And I was like, I just didn't want to do that. So I sat on these for a while. I had a lot of depression to deal with, a lot of anxiety, a lot of a lot of other just busy work, I was building up my business during this time, because in June I only had 3 practice groups, so I had built up 4 more since then. And it was finally October, and I was like, look, if I don't do these, if I don't make these interviews into episodes, I'm gonna feel terrible for the time that I wasted of all these people, for the fact that they gave me all this gold, in telling me all these stories and lessons and insights that aren't going to be shared. So, it really helped me to have that outside motivation. So whatever it is that you're trying to work on, if you can get someone else involved, and this desire not to disappoint others, for most of us, tends to be a little stronger than just not to disappoint ourselves. And that's why the Improv Breakdown exists. I'm super excited. This is episode 11. I've got interviews already that I've done for more, and I'm always looking for more. If you know anyone who's just fucking awesome, who's a great improv teacher, just if you are, let me know. I've got a queue of people. I'm always looking for more good people to get on this show. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for listening. I really appreciate it. All right, we'll see you next time on Improv Breakdown. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions about improv, please put them in the comments below to get notified about upcoming episodes. Subscribe to the Roland and Rich's YouTube channel and click the little bell icon below. Thanks, improvisers, and keep making each other look good.